Rock the Ripple. Rock the Ripple. The Rock the Ripple podcast with Narita McInnes.
Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rock the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Narita McInnes. It is so awesome to be here with you as always. And today is another very exciting day because I am joined by another very special guest. He is a geologist, a researcher, an explorer of all that we are and more, sharing his findings and evidence around Aritfact Terra, a planet built by advanced races in the distant past, artificial planet theory, hollow earth theory, and the origin of our planet. Hailing all the way from Texas in the USA, he is the one and only Jock Doubleday. Jock, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's so great to be here with you, Jock. I think we connected a little while ago and you have been sharing lots of cool stuff around the place. Now, before we dive into all of that stuff, I really want to know a little bit more about you. Who is Jock Doubleday for those who have never met you?
Well, you mentioned that I'm a geologist, and really I would say I'm an amateur geologist and amateur archaeologist, just a guy who always loved rocks, who always loved getting out in nature, just like most of us do. And so I didn't know when I was a kid, picking up agates and buying a rock polisher and polishing all these beautiful stones that were natural stones. I didn't know that I was going to develop a new theory for the origin of the Earth. That seems kind of like a big project to do, like why would I come up with anything like that? What would be the impetus to do that? Well, the reason that a playwright and a screenwriter, which is what I am, came up with a new theory for the origin of the Earth is that I went to spend time in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex in 2011. They had a volunteer program, and it sounded like so much fun to go dig, and you didn't have to be in school as an archaeologist, as an archaeology student, or you didn't have to be a degreed archaeologist to dig and to help with the excavation of this incredible, extremely old pyramid complex in the middle of Bosnia. So I thought, wow, I love to work a shovel. I love stones. I love ancient history. I love mysteries. I'll go out and volunteer. So I wrote them and I said, in the summer of 2011, I said, I'd like to volunteer. And they go, well, our program's full for this summer. And I said, well, I'm going to come out. Just typed, I'm coming out. See you soon. Because I figured that, well, if I show up there, they'll say, okay, you can lend a hand. I mean, so I showed up and Samir said, okay, well, you've had experience with your nonprofit organization. I had a health nonprofit that I had run for a while, several years. And he said, okay, why don't you organize a scientific conference while you're here as a volunteer? Instead of digging, you can help me on another level. And I said, great, I'd love to do that. So I did that. And I also dug, because I like to work a shovel. And that was fun. It was 3 months of great fun with the volunteers in Bosnia. And then I kept in touch with Samir over the next couple of years and wrote articles on the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, ancient history, sent him the articles. He was really happy about that because he's trying to push information about the Bosnian pyramids out to the public because it's getting suppressed by academia because they don't believe that there are pyramids in Bosnia. And they're really upset about this changing of history that this complex does. So it's pushing building, sophisticated building back several thousand years. So Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years ago, and this is 34,000 years ago. So you can imagine that academia is a little bit up in arms. Instead of embracing it as amazing, they're like, how dare you, we're going to censor everything from Bosnia from now on. So Archaeology Magazine censored every archaeological discovery from Bosnia since 2015 or 2016. It's a total moratorium on Bosnian archaeology to punish Samir for discovering pyramids in Bosnia. It's just total nonsense on the part of academia.
Wow.
So I went out there in 2014, 3 years later, and because Samir needed a videographer, and he said, why don't you come out and do some videography for the foundation. And so I did, and made some short scientific videos for the foundation that summer 2014. And then I stayed on, and I just stayed in Bosnia and it became, I think it was month 17, 17 months straight I'd been there. 17 months total with the volunteer months that I'd been there. And I began to wonder where the foundations of the pyramids in Visoka, Bosnia were. Because the pyramids, the largest documented pyramid in the world, Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, goes down toward the Foinica River. And then there's this little town, Visoko, and then there's the river. So people thought, oh, the pyramid probably starts on the other side of the town, not where the river is, but on the other side of town somewhere. That's probably where it starts. That's the foundation. Well, I thought, what if the foundation is the riverbed itself? Because when you look at a topographical map, you see that the eastern side of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, as it's going down toward the Foinica River, it just keeps going. It's exactly the same angle all the way to the river. And I'm like, So I went into the river that day. It was August 5th, 2015. And I'm getting tingles right now thinking about it, because it was built in exactly the same way. The riverbed, the banks of the riverbed were built in the same way that the pyramids there are built. The pyramids in Bosnia are built in a different way from the pyramids on the Giza Plateau, in Central America and South America. They're less brittle. They're more part of the landscape. They're integral parts of the landscape. And that's why they weren't discovered until 2005, because they just look like hills, you know. They're built with alternating clay, soft clay, and hard clay layers. So there's the soft earthquake mitigating clay, and it might be only a centimeter, or it might be 3 meters, depending on where it is on the structure. And then a hard structural layer of a baked clay stone, one baked clay stone sat next to another baked clay stone, sat next to another baked clay stone. And that layer of clay stones is inclined into the face of the structure. So if you're facing the structure, it's like you can kind of, instead of being flat like we would do with bricks, they're sort of weighted inward toward the center of the structure. So you can kind of see under them a little bit. If there's a little bit of erosion, you see under them, because they're all, so that in an earthquake, the structure is soft because of the soft earthquake mitigating layers, and the hard layers literally wedge in stronger toward the center of the structure. So if there's movement, it's wedging in, getting stronger with an earthquake. So the ancients who built these structures are geniuses. And they're way stronger than the brittle structures that we see, that we call the normal pyramids that we think of around the globe, that are blocks set on blocks, that don't have the soft earthquake mitigating layers. Now, I'm just going to cut to the punchline, because there's a lot more stuff I could tell you. But after I came back to America, I started exploring riverbeds. I'm leaving out a lot of stuff, but I went on an exploration through many countries in Eastern Europe, and then South Africa with Michael Tellinger. And I found building, I was using the education that I'd gotten, the training I'd gotten in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, to find building in what other people would call natural hills on different continents. So on Eurasia, it was in Serbia and Croatia that I explored. And then I went down to work with Michael Tellinger as a videographer. And I noticed that the same inclination of the structures of the layers of the hills in Waterval Boven, where Michael's compound was, the same inclination toward the center of the structure was how the hills were built there. And I was like, uh-oh, these are built too. Now this is weird. This is weird to find. And then when I came back to, I didn't want to really find this. I was looking for it because I wondered how far the building went. Because once you find a built riverbed, you go, how far does this riverbed go that's built? Where does it become natural again? And I couldn't find an end to the building. So I explored the riverbed for miles and miles and miles, and I couldn't find an end to it. And I was like, are all these hills along the side of the riverbed built? They're covered with forests, so I can't see if they're built, but the riverbed's built. So that was in Bosnia. But so other places that I went to showed signs of artifice when I looked at the natural landscape, because based on the training that I got in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. So then I came back to America, I started exploring the riverbeds here in Texas and California and Wyoming. And I went on a birthday trip that was a cross-country trip and explored all these different states. And I continued to find artifice. I went into Rock Creek in California, and that's igneous rock, according to academia. But there were 30-meter long straight lines that went across the creek bed at 45-degree angles to the flow of the creek. And you're like, how is a straight line perfectly integral, like a seam in a garment? How is that going through igneous material when the igneous material should have just been this chaotic mess of molten material? How is a straight line appearing in that? And then add a 45 to the flow of the creek, and then add the opposite 45 to the flow of the creek. And I just documented that. Endless 30, 20, 40, 50-meter long straight lines through this material. And it's like, well, this is clearly building. It's just that the ancients who built Rock Creek in California in the Sierra Nevada mountains, just like the ancients who built the late stage terraforming project, the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, they didn't have the same idea about how to build things that we do. So they use asymmetrical sectioning. That's the key to it. That's why geologists have been fooled. That's why all of us are fooled when we go out on a hike. If they had used sections that were exactly the same width and exactly the same shape, for instance, a rectangle, we'd go, oh, it's building. Well, the hills are built. But they didn't. They would use triangular shapes next to a rectangular shape, next to another odd shape. And the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, all the stones that are placed on top of the soft earthquake mitigating clay, these clay stones, baked clay stones that are inclined into the faces, into the center of the structure, they're all unique. They're not molded. So the homeowners digging down for their foundations in Bosnia, they're living on this pyramid, but they thought it was a hill because they would find these weird stones, none of which were the same. If they had all been the same, like we use, they would have said, oh my God, this is a pyramid, but they were all different. Some had curves in them. So I wrote an article called No Two Stones Are the Same. People can find that article, and it documents with endless photos and videos and things how the artificial clay stones in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, there's hundreds of millions of them, maybe billions, that compose the entire complex, along with the soft earthquake mitigating clay. These stones are unique. So they were handmade, hundreds of millions of handmade stones, not molded, not one mold like we would use. And so you're like, well, that's a big project. Who did that? Well, we don't know who did it, because there's only supposed to have been tribes throwing spears and gathering berries back then in 34,000 years ago. There wasn't supposed to be an advanced culture there. So academia goes, it's impossible. They just won't look at it. They won't look at the Bosnian Pyramid Complex because they go, it was just tribes, man. It can't be that old. And the building is weird. They won't come out and see it. They just assume that it's nonsense. So anyway. So I'll be quiet now because I've been talking for probably 15 minutes straight. But I get so excited about Bosnian Pyramid Complex, first of all, because it's there that I had the genesis of the continental terraforming theory, as I call it, which then became the artificial planet theory. Because I thought, well, if the continents are built, and I've explored 3 continents on my own, North America, Eurasia, and Africa, those 3 continents, I know that features there are built. I haven't explored every inch of 3 continents, obviously. But so then maybe we could say that all the continents are built. I mean, that's a reasonable supposition, especially based on photographs and video drone shots along riverbeds that I've seen. So I have the evidence from the landscape, from the terrain, that the continents were built. And then I go, well, if the continents are built, maybe the Earth itself is built. So I've been researching that, and I did a presentation in Illinois, in Grafton, Illinois, through the Journey to Truth conference. Aaron Kuhn and Tyler Koala, they were kind enough to invite me up, and my presentation was called "Who Built Terra?" So that's the question: who built Terra? The answer would be advanced races in the distant past. Which advanced races, I don't know. How exactly they did it, I don't know. And I'm writing my books. It's called Aritfact Terra, and I'm gonna set this theory forth, and then people can hopefully build on that, because the signs of the building are obvious. It's just a question of asking this question when we go onto the train. When we take our hike, all we have to do is ask this question: is what I'm looking at natural or artificial? Geologists today do not ask that question, and they haven't asked that question for hundreds of years. Nobody's asking that question because they have a false premise at the foundation of their thinking. What is that false premise? It is that we are the first advanced race in the universe. So all of academia, all the scientists, the microbiologists, the zoologists, the astrophysicists, the astronomers, the geologists, all the earth sciences guys, everybody, every single one has this premise at the foundation of their thinking. We're the first advanced race in the universe. And what does that mean? That means this false premise is telling us that because there were no other races to have built anything that we see in the natural world, trees, life forms like a zebra, or a blade of grass, or a planet, or a sun, or space, or dimensions, nothing that we see, microbes, nothing that we see in the natural world can have come into existence artificially, because we didn't engineer any of that. We didn't build it. We didn't build the world. We didn't build trees. We didn't build continents. We didn't build suns and space and dimensions. And there were no other advanced races around. We're the first advanced race, is the belief. Therefore, it must have come into existence through natural forces. So no one asked the question when they're taking a hike. No academic ever asked the question. No geologist ever says, I wonder if this is built. They just go, how did this mountain come into being naturally? So that's the problem. The false premise that we're the first advanced race in the universe, which is comical and farcical on the face of it, in a universe this big, is the problem. So I'm going to shut up now and you can talk.
Oh, thanks, Jock. I think when you were talking, I was just thinking it really comes down to the questions, doesn't it? It's not always the answers, how powerful the questions are around, I mean, not just what you're exploring, but everything in life. Do you feel that as well?
The questions are so powerful. So, I mean, I learned this when I was young, and I think that we all learn it subconsciously or consciously. I had a teacher who, said it outright to me when I was younger. And so it becomes clear that, let's say you're a politician, you want the questions that are asked to be said in a certain way to help you give answers that are going to convince people that you have the right position. This question sets the field. So it's like a frame, and the question can frame you in a good way or a bad way. And you see this every day when people ask Trump questions or people ask Biden questions. You can tell who's on the side of the politician by the way they frame their question, So this is so powerful. And then people who understand that questions are framing us for good or bad, can then jump out of the frame and reframe the conversation immediately. That's what good politicians do. That's what all the good politicians do. But yeah, so questions are super, super powerful. I think the more simple and fundamental a question is, the more powerful it is. So instead of asking some technical question, when geologists go out on the terrain, I would suggest that they ask the most basic foundational fundamental question: is what I'm looking at natural or artificial? Then they can gather evidence for the theory that it's natural, that it came into existence through natural forces accidentally. Oops, this mountain was created. I wonder how. And they can gather evidence for the theory that this is artifice, that this was created by an advanced race or races in the distant past. And then once you get information for those theories, then you can weigh which one has the more evidence. And I would suggest that if we ask that question, that the evidence on the side of artifice is voluminous, it's copious, and to me, unimpeachable. You have straight lines that you see in riverbanks across the world. millions and millions and millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions and billions of straight vertical lines that transverse multiple layers of sedimentary material. Now, if this sedimentary material was laid down naturally, and I'm not suggesting that you couldn't have sedimentary material being laid down naturally, it seems perfectly plausible to me that sedimentary materials being laid down and compressed in layers, that's fine. But how are you going to get a straight line that goes through this layer, which is said to be a time period by modern day academic geology, right? Over 1,000 years, this particular mix of minerals was laid down in this seabed. And then there was this other layer that was about 500 years. And then there was a 10,000 year layer because there was a volcano and all this stuff. And it's so different time periods are represented by layers as we learned in high school geology. So that's basic. But how is one line going to transverse 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30 layers of sedimentary material? How is that going to happen? Well, it's going to happen if you're an advanced race and you're building in layer cakes. You're building this layered section vertically defined this way, and then another layered section vertically defined this way, right? In nature, there is no vertical definition. In igneous rock, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find any kind of straight lines in igneous rock. And in sedimentary rock, the only straight lines you're going to find are horizontal. But if you've got horizontal layers, and then you've got a straight line transversing this layer, this layer, this layer, this layer, this layer, then you know that there's artifice. It has to be. So that's what I mean by unimpeachable. So I'm in the riverbeds on 3 continents saying, this evidence is copious and unimpeachable. And people are like, why is a playwright telling us that the earth is built? He's totally crazy. And they just skip it. So, you know, I have nothing at stake. If people don't, if not one soul, if you and the billions of earthlings, Terrans, don't buy into this, it doesn't hurt me. Like, it's fine. It's just like, but if you see that the sky is blue every single day of your life, and you say to your friends, what do you think of that blue sky? And they go, whoa, that's a black and white checkered sky. And you're like, wait, what? And let's say the entire population of the earth said, that's a black and white checkered sky. And you're like, no, but that's a blue sky. You know, you just want them to know that it's blue. You don't have anything at stake. And it's like, maybe you'd relax more if people saw that it was blue instead of telling you that it was a black and white checkered sky when it's clearly blue. So, you know, what filter do they have over their eyes that they're seeing a black and white checkered sky? So what filter do people have over their eyes when they're seeing, this is a good segue. Okay. Because the key is that belief is the filter. Our training, our indoctrination, our education, really indoctrination, is the filter that's over our eyes. It's like glasses that are forcing us to see something different. So when we go on a hike, we've got the glasses of belief. And the belief is that what we're looking at is natural. It's just, that's what it is. That's what's happening with everybody that goes out on a hike, whether they're a trained geologist or just a regular person who wants to go out and take their dog on a walk, you know? So we just look at it and we say, oh, wow, that's amazing that mountain looks like that. And so on Facebook, you have these natural wonders pages, and the comments are always amazing. 80% of the comments are amazing. Why? Because it is amazing that nature would come up with these features that are so astounding. But equally amazing it would be, wouldn't it, if they were the products of artifice on the part of advanced races who built them for specific reasons. So we can get into that if you want to. Why would advanced races be building continents? Why would they be building mountains, valleys, riverbeds, creek beds, hills? What is all that for? That's a lot of work. We wouldn't do that. There's way too much work for us. You'd need a population 1 million times greater than what we have to build. And where would we get the material? Where did they get the material? So there's other questions that we have to ask if we go down the road that, yes, there is evidence for artifice in the continents and perhaps artifice for the planet itself to have come into being, then there are other questions we can ask.
Mm. When you're talking about all this, like my brain is just thinking about all what different people say, and like we talk about the resets and different times, Lemuria, Atlantis, all that sort of stuff as well. Like, are these distant people actually, or beings actually us from another time? Like, there's so many different ways and to look at it, and so many different stories that come into play. Do you find yourself exploring that too? Like, there's Tartaria, there's that as well. There's so many things to pull from to kind of get that information through. What does that bring up for you, Jock?
Right. Well, the first title of my book, Aritfact Terra, was "Who Built the Earth?" Because to me that was the question. It also puts it in line with the book "Who Built the Moon?" So I thought, well, as homage to that amazing book that shows that the moon is an artificial object, without any doubt, "Who Built the Earth?" would be the next title. But then I thought, over time, I thought I'm going to change it to Aritfact Terra. But the question really is who and when and how did they get the material? So who, when, how did they get the material? So we figured out, based on Nikola Tesla's work, amazingly, and he's been discarded by academia, by the way. People should know that.
Yeah.
They're trying to get rid of the smartest scientists ever to have lived, and they've done pretty good. They've done a pretty good job. No, he's not mentioned in academia. The smartest scientist ever to have lived, way smarter than Einstein, is not mentioned in academia. He's poo-pooed, he's ridiculed, he's ostracized. What? Really? Oh, okay. So he said in his article on July 6th, 1930, it's called "Man's Greatest Achievement." He said that humanity's greatest achievement, after he's dead sometime, will be one day learning how to extract material from what he called the fluid ether, which means it's a material ether, even though it's invisible. The fabric of the universe is invisible, but he called it a fluid ether. So we're going to learn how to extract material, matter, from this invisible fabric and create worlds. Those are his words, not my words. Just find his article, "Man's Greatest Achievement." We're going to learn how to build planets. He said that will be our greatest achievement. Well, we never heard about this in school. We never heard that we're going to build planets one day from Nikola Tesla. I didn't even hear Tesla's name until I was 40.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Einstein, Edison all day, Edison all day, Edison all day, Edison all day. Well, if you research Edison, you'll find some stuff that's not that pretty. So Nikola Tesla, people want a little bit more background on Tesla that's not standard, they can go to my article on my An American in Bosnia site. Is it there, or is it? Anyway, I'll send you the link and you can put it in the description.
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So because it's a question of whether he was actually a Terran human or a different kind of human. He was receiving blueprints, and he said that over and over and over. So that's not woo-woo, that's not crazy talk. He said that many times. He said, "My brain is a receiver."
Yeah.
He never said, "I'm a genius." People said, "Tesla's a genius." And he said, "No, my brain is a receiver." He was receiving the blueprints. He wasn't thinking up the blueprints. He was receiving them, and then he'd turn them over in his head, try to figure out if they'd work. He'd figure out, yeah, that could work, because he's smart. I mean, if I received blueprints, I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But Tesla was smart enough to figure out that they would work, and then he was smart enough to create them. And you create a machine out of a blueprint. Now, that's amazing. So, but he never said, "I'm a genius." He said, "My brain is a receiver." So from whom is he receiving the blueprints? So people can find my article. I think it's called, "Was Nikola Tesla Brought Here from Venus?" Now that sounds woo-woo, but you got to ask yourself again, who is sending Nikola Tesla blueprints for machines? Why is somebody receiving blueprints from anybody, from anywhere? at any time for
Is it
machines.
not source though? Is it not the just source, the force, as it would be in Star Wars? You know what I mean? Is it that, or do you feel like it's a who? It's an actual being, or do you feel like it's a the ether, the plasma, the thing that flows through all of us?
It's a really good question. And I don't know what the answer is. I think both things are probably happening for Nikola. And I think that Source is sending all of us key intel all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but I think that maybe we could say that Nikola was getting ice cream on top of that, like dessert. And the
Yeah.
dessert was the blueprints from his people on Venus.
Right.
Now, I don't want to get too sidetracked on Tesla, but I have some information on him if people want to know what's happening with Nikola Tesla now. And people are like, what do you mean he's dead? Well, souls are immortal. And these are temporary suits that we have in this life. But our soul is immortal, and Nikola Tesla's soul survived, obviously, his death, his murder by the Rothschilds, who hired Otto Skorzeny and Reinhard Gehlen to kill him. And that's in the deathbed confessions of Otto Skorzeny. So people can find that. They can go to, there's two sources for it. One's whale.2, and the other one is, I'll send you the links. So,
yeah.
So, I'm in the middle of the longest sentence ever.
Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla. Yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say.
The information coming through the blueprints.
Right. We'll figure it out.
We will.
Actually, maybe is it possible to take a quick break and a quick bathroom break so I can and then we can come back?
I'll allow it. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll
I'll cut it
okay,
straight
good.
back in. No one will miss a beat. Yeah. We're back.
Okay. We're back. Okay, so Nikola Tesla's immortal soul has another incarnation now, according to Vanessa Lyle, who is a medium who I've had 12 or 13 readings with over the last 3 years. And she says she asked her guide, her Pleiadian guide, Raina, what's happening with Nikola Tesla? And she said, well, Raina told Vanessa, who told me, that he is back with his family on Venus. He's happy. He's working as he was in human form, Terran human form here. He's working on Venus to do exactly the same thing, which is to get technology that will help humanity to us. So he's doing that on Venus instead of in a Terran suit, Terran human suit. So he's doing fine. He's happy. Instead of being persecuted and marginalized like he was here, we treated him like a dog, basically. And the bankers just hated him, and they made his life really hard. He's back with his family and happy, so that's good. Now, the reason we're talking about Nikola Tesla is because we had mentioned that we'd said who built the planet. That's a question we could ask if we entertain the idea that that could happen, that there could be an artificial planet. Who built it, when, and where they get the material? Well, Nikola Tesla said in his article, Man's Greatest Achievement, July 6, 1930, that we would learn how to extract material from the ether. Now, if we're going to learn how to extract material from the fluid ether, as he calls it, then advanced races who've been around a lot longer than we have, in fact, you wouldn't even call us one of the advanced races. We're like babies compared to the truly advanced races in the universe. We're not an advanced race at all. We're on our way one day. But so these advanced races who have been around for millions of years, developing technology, just as we will for millions of years on, we'll develop amazing technologies too. They've been doing it for a lot longer than we have, so they have an advantage. So they're going to have developed planet building technology millions of years ago, billions of years ago, and it'll be building a planet will be to advanced races child's play. So it's not, and this is, let's say that Terra is the last planet they built. If we believe that planets can be built and that advanced races exist, all this hangs together logically if we take those as suppositions. But Terra might have been their last planet that they built. I mean, maybe they've built a million planets since then. I don't know, but maybe this is the last one. But obviously, what I'm trying to say is that Terra, the building of Terra, was a project that was not the advanced race's last first rodeo. You know how they say if you're a novice, if you're a beginner, it's your first rodeo. Well, if you've been around a while, it's not your first rodeo. So that's the maxim. That means that they're going to be extremely sophisticated in what they're doing. They're going to be really meticulous. They're going to be extremely skilled. They're going to be artisans. They're going to be playing with the material. They're going to be having fun building a planet. I mean, wouldn't you love to build a planet? I mean, people have terrariums that they build, and they're like, hey, look at this little ecosystem I built. Imagine doing that on a planetary scale. Cheers.
Yes. Oh, so many questions, so big. And I mean, that's the thing, like to me, like it blows my mind. And I know that there's just, I mean, we live in a realm of infinite possibility, so everything has to be possible. How can it not? And if we think of it, like if there's a question, then there's an answer. So there has to be that back and forth. That's the universal law, like if there's a question, there's an answer. Like it, yeah. So there's got to be an answer to the question that you're posing. And then, I mean, the mind boggles really to me. Do you feel that? Or do you just, I mean, I can tell how passionate and excited you get about this. And there's so much there. I don't even know where to go with this. That's that's the thing. Like, and you talk about hollow earth theory as well. And how does that play into it as well? Because I've always been fascinated about that too.
Right. Well, this is cool. Because the artificial planet theory, which people can dismiss out of hand if they want to. Like I said, I have no stake in it.
Yeah.
You can believe it or not, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
What people do at all. I mean, I'm just telling you that I'm excited to have found evidence of an artificial planet. Does that mean that the planet is artificial? No. Does Nikola Tesla mean saying that one day our greatest achievement is going to be to build planets by extracting material from the fluid invisible ether? Does that mean that our planet is built just because Tesla said that? No, it doesn't mean that. But we have all this sort of mounting evidence that's pushing us toward, to me, is leading us toward this idea that maybe our planet is built. So I'm just putting this out there as a theory that's an evidence-based theory. Now, there's a lot of theories with evidence behind them that aren't necessarily true. There's a lot of competing theories that all have evidence, but it's just a question of which one's right. So I'm not saying I'm right and everybody's wrong. I'm just saying there's a bunch of evidence for this. I believe that the evidence points to this. So I fully believe that the planet was built, but if no one else believes that, it's totally fine. As for the infinite possibilities of the universe, it is astounding that we have spent our entire lives trapped in a thought control matrix. And so that's one thing that's astounding, because we most of us didn't know that we were in a thought control matrix until recently. And two, that we are breaking out of it. And I think the artificial planet theory, based on the idea that we are not the first advanced race, but that other advanced races have existed and have developed high technology to build planets, that will help us. That will be like another crack in the matrix, another way to escape, another ladder out. There's lots of ladders out, lots of political events that make us go, wait, what? And we start to climb out of the matrix. We go down a rabbit hole, and we're like, oh, and then we're climbing out of the matrix, and people are making their way out slowly. And pretty soon we're going to be free of this weird thought control system that has been instituted and implemented and enforced by really nefarious folks, and the folks are not necessarily all human. So we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but so that's amazing. So we've been living in a matrix, thought control matrix, and we're escaping the thought control matrix toward what you call the infinite possibilities. So this is fantastic, you know?
Yeah. And so, I mean, with the infinite possibilities, I mean, I love that you said that, actually, because there are so many different ways to and when you say escape the matrix, it's more just recognizing more of who you are, because you're coming back to that. That's sort of how I see it, because it's sort of just unlocking and removing the layers that were the patterns, the indoctrination and all that sort of stuff. So you're just peeling back all of that sort of stuff. Do you feel that as well?
Well, it's a really good point, because the infinite potential that I was sort of implying was out there somewhere. Hey, we might find a race that builds planets. Well, that's one way to look at it, but ultimately, what we are, and David Icke talks about this a lot, what we are is the golden secret, because we've been told that we're a meat suit that dies, and we have one life, and then we're dead, and that's it. We're in a coffin, and the worms eat us, and that's what we've been told. So that's a weird, sad, depressing way to look at life. But if we begin to understand that, according to the advanced races, and we have the intel from them, from the insiders in the secret space program, whose testimonials corroborate each other on key points. So we have this incredible net of evidence from really courageous people who said, I'm going to tell people about the secret space program, even though I might get killed for doing it, because it's the highly secret program.
Yeah.
Based on this evidence that the secret space program insiders told us, we have the knowledge from the advanced races who told the insiders this knowledge, that we are immortal souls. Now, if we're immortal souls, then we're not just what we think we are. So then that's amazing. That takes the weight off. If we know that when we die, we don't really die, then we don't need to fear death. So we're putting all this energy into fearing death all day long, even though we don't realize it. It's all subconscious. We're all treading on eggshells, walking on eggshells, trying not to die. When if we understand that we're immortal souls, and this is a play, it's a drama, it's theater. It's a way for us to experience another kind of life here on Terra, and we chose this. So all of these things coming together, it makes things so much better. We can relax for the first time, maybe. I mean, we can relax more than we were, right? Because because everybody's living in fear. And then everyone's living in sadness because someone died. My wife died, my husband died, my child died. Did they really die? They're still there. They're a geometrical, energetic pattern, the soul that survives any kind of physical incarnation. And this is what we learn from the advanced races that exist, that academia tells us do not exist. Academia needs to keep a lid on a lot of things. One is that advanced races exist. Another is that we live in a universe of infinite time. So they give us the Big Bang Theory. This is crucial to the academic control system. The Big Bang Theory, which gives us a young universe, 13.8 billion years is nothing compared to the trillions and trillions of years that the universe has been around. Who knows how long? But as far as our real science is concerned, the universe has been here forever. In other words, real science has not found a beginning to the universe. Academic science, which is not real science, is just a fairy tale, bunch of nonsense, says that the beginning of the universe was found at 13.8 billion years ago. It's total, utter nonsense. It's total fucking bullshit. Okay, so anybody who believes in the Big Bang Theory, read any of the books that I have, like so many books right here, but they're all under some Shakespeare books. So I can't pull them out really easily right now. But anyway, I have tons of books on this written by people outside of academia. The Big Bang Never Happened by Eric Lerner. Hilton Radcliffe wrote a book called the expanding universe. No, not the expanding universe, the static universe. The static universe, which is the model that's opposed to the expanding Big Bang universe. So Hilton Radcliffe, Halton Arp wrote a book called Seeing Red. He was an astronomer that was excommunicated for finding evidence that the Big Bang was nonsense. And they're like, okay, well, you don't get telescope time anymore. Wait, what? So I went into this in my presentation in Grafton, Illinois, May 25th, 2023, Journey to Truth Conference, Who Built Terra. I spent probably 40 minutes on the Big Bang. I'm a playwright talking about the Big Bang. It's not that easy for me because my mind doesn't go that way, but I had to do it because the young universe theory, which the Big Bang gives us, is like this brick in front of our eyes that's keeping us from seeing the truth. The Big Bang young universe theory is just like blinding us from the truth, to quote the Matrix movie. The young universe tells us that we are plausibly the first advanced race, because it's only been a few billion years since the beginning of the universe. So we could plausibly imagine that we're the first race to accidentally, happily, oopsie, we became conscious, unlike the other animals who are not quite on our level. We're self-aware. And if we're self-aware, we're self-conscious, that means that we know that we have a future. That means that we're going to develop technology to plan for our future. And we're going to start landscaping and building canals and doing agriculture, planting trees and making cities, because we know we're alive. And that's another level of consciousness above the animals. And so we're supposed to believe that we are the first advanced race, the first self-conscious, self-aware, and therefore technologically advanced race in the universe. That's what academia wants us to believe. And they say, because, and this makes sense because we're in a young universe. It's only 13.8 billion years. Well, that's the problem. The Big Bang young universe theory is the problem because people believe it. They just gaslight us with, yeah, I mean, the first time we heard it 50 years ago, before you were born, probably. I'll say yes, before you were born. First time I heard it is I said, oh, that's crazy. And the second time I heard it, that's crazy. The universe came from nothing. It just exploded out of nothing. And everything came from nothing. That's just total insanity. It's total nonsense. But you see, if the university professors keep gaslighting us by saying it over and over and over, yes, students, the universe came from nothing. And they just keep saying it. And they're very prestigious men with these degrees. And you're like, well, I guess the universe came from nothing. After about 10 years, you're like, well, yeah, Big Bang. So they just gaslight us with repetition. And so everyone understood the first time they heard it, that it was total nonsense and bullshit. It's just total utter nonsense. And you still see Michio Kaku stumping for the Big Bang theory. And he's talking in one video about different kinds of nothing. He has to figure out a way to explain how everything came from nothing. So he's going, well, I guess I should do a video saying that there's different kinds of nothing. One kind of nothing is really nothing, where there's nothing. But then the other kind of nothing is where you can get a universe from it. And it's like, shut up. I mean, I love you, brother. I love you, Michio Kaku. Let's go have a beer. I got nothing against you. But shut the fuck up. You got a responsibility. You have a responsibility to humanity as a scientist. If you're going to call yourself a scientist, shut up about two different kinds of nothing. We know what nothing is. Nothing means nothing. It's really simple. No thing, period. No, the universe cannot, by our own laws of physics, have come from nothing, period. Now, how the universe did come about, I don't know. I'm just a playwright. Cheers.
Yeah, I was waiting for that bit. How did the universe come about then? And that's the thing. Like, you're right. Like, I mean, anything that has had so much of that pushing and I mean, there's a TV show called Big Bang Theory. So, I mean, it just sort of, you know, I'm sure you laugh at that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, we could go so many places with this. Well, before I did ask you a bit more about Hollow Earth. That's something that I'm really fascinated with. So I'd love to hear a bit more of your take on that, please.
Sorry for taking a diversion and answering a question about the Hollow Earth.
Oh, I love the diversion. Like, to me, I always trust wherever we go. It's meant to be exactly what it's supposed to be. So
Okay.
yeah, I just brought it back because I can. Yeah.
I never thought I'd end up yelling at Michio Kaku at the top of my lungs on a podcast. I guess I have some repressed anger.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I'm a writer, so I don't really get a chance to talk to anybody except my mom. It's just me and my mom here in Texas. And so I don't talk to many people. So when I get a chance to talk to you or
Mhm.
some other podcast host or whatever, then I'm just like blah, 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 blah. You know how it is? You just
Yes.
start talking.
Yeah. Love it.
I'm excited. I'm like, I got all this stuff. I haven't told anyone for a long time. So you can always interrupt me and just tell me to shut up. I'm telling Misha Kaku to shut up. You can just say, shut up, Jock. Let me ask you a question or let me say something.
Oh, I will. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I'm just loving where you're going. So it's just awesome hearing all your wisdom coming through, Jock. So just go for it.
Well, I want people to know that I do see the comedy of a playwright telling Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson, who are very smart people, all about the Big Bang. So I do see the comedy of that, but I promised you that I would never weigh in on this as a layman unless I had read many, 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 many books on the Big
Mm,
Bang written by really smart scientists who debunk it easily without
mm,
any problem whatsoever based on the evidence. So these books are evidence-based books. Halton Art's book, Seeing Red, is genius. Hilton Radcliffe's book, The Static Universe, Eric Lerner, The Big Bang Never Happened. There's some other really good ones. Um, so so anyway, to the hollow Earth. Now we have a hollow Earth that's also an expanding Earth, and also, in my opinion, an artificial Earth. Now, most people don't. I would say that academia, no one in academia would publicly state that they believe that the Earth is hollow, because all the textbooks say that there's a molten core.
mm,
Now, this is easily debunkable. They say that there's a molten core because uh, earthquake waves, earthquake energy is displaced at a certain point inside the Earth. And so, in other words, if there's an earthquake on the north part of the planet, and the energy is being recorded as it moves through the Earth, and then it can be recorded on the other side of the planet, but there's this place where the waves get blocked. And they go, oh, it's because there's a molten core there, and the molten core is blocking the energy from being recorded on the other side of the planet, the seismographic energy, the seismographic recordings. But the real reason that the waves are displaced and they disappear is because it's a hollow planet. It's not because there's a molten core. It's because there's air there, and the waves don't go through the air. There's no
mm,
conductivity. There's not enough conductivity in air. The rock will conduct the energy, and so that the earthquake energy can be recorded on the other side of the planet. But the hollow Earth, the air is not going to allow that. So that's why this lack of uh, earthquake energy, seismographic recording is happening.
mm,
So now, so the evidence points to a hollow Earth, earthquake energy evidence. Then we have testimonials from people who've actually visited the hollow Earth, and the testimonials are corroborating of each other. So they're saying there's large fruits, large vegetables, large people, beautiful people, wonderful spirits, that they're not violent, they're peaceful. They took us in, they they fed us, they told us things. And then you've got Admiral Byrd and his adventure into the inner Earth, and then his cryptic message to us on TV. He had been told by the powers that be to say nothing about what he had found, that the Earth is hollow, his entrance in the South and the North Pole. But so his cryptic message was he talked about the land beyond the poles. And you're like, the land beyond the poles? What could that be? Well, once you know what he's talking about, then you know that it's the land beyond the poles. I mean, you can in a continuous way in a ship or on the ocean or in an airplane, you can see the land that goes beyond the poles. And people say, what, but how does that work? The oceans are falling into wouldn't the ship fall in? Or, well, because gravity is in the shell. So the shell of the Earth contains the gravity. So wherever you are, you're being pulled this way, or you're being pulled this way by gravity, by the shell. So no matter where you are, you still have gravity, but your orientation is now totally screwed up. Your compasses aren't going to work. So as soon as your ship starts to go inside the Earth on the ocean, which is held by gravity, by the shell, because it's a very, very thick, heavy shell with a lot of gravity energy to it. As soon as your ship starts to go in, your compass stops working because you've been on the surface and you've been orienting everything to the north, right? But then you see, so the shell contains the gravity. That's why a ship can go in, and it seems like you don't realize if you don't look at your compass at all, you won't realize that you're inside the Earth, except that you might notice that the sky is gone. So we got Admiral Byrd's testimonial, and we've got the Smoky God testimonial, and he was put in an insane asylum because he's talking about the inner Earth, and they're like, well, he must be crazy. Oh, well, maybe he's right. And we have other testimonials of people who've been in there. Secret Space Program insiders endlessly talk about the inner Earth, endlessly. They have they talk about which races are where, which carbon systems have which races. So anyone can find those on Journey to Truth's videos, video interviews with these Secret Space Program insiders. So we have endless testimonials about the hollow Earth, and that we're not the only race on the planet or in the planet. So inside the planet is many different races. So, and technologically advanced races far beyond us. So we're just sort of like in the thought control matrix up here going, hey, we're the kings of the universe. We're the first advanced race. And the people in the inside are like, boy, I hope they don't find out about us because they're barbarians, you know? And these red-haired gods, as we call them, who came out as teachers from the inner Earth, told us that they were from the sky so that no one would go seeking them in the inner Earth. They said, we're from the sky, we're your sky brothers. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. No, they're from the inner Earth, these red-haired teachers. Anyway, so then we have the expanding Earth. That's James Maxlow. His site is expansiontectonics.com. And it has it all there. He's a retired geologist. He worked for the gold mining companies in Australia for many, many years. He's one of you, one of yours. And he's just a regular, standard, conventional gold mining company hired geologist who, you know, he could help them find gold. And then after he retired, he started to think about the Earth. And he goes, this idea about tectonic plates, there's no evidence for any of that. So he debunks that. Then he says, is the Earth actually staying the same size? Because you see, academia, and I'm not going to go on too much longer about this because I feel like I'm boring the entire world with my endless professorial persona here, but I'm just giving you what I've learned from you know, various really smart people. I'm just a guy who's reading some stuff, so you can take it for what it's worth, you know. So James Maxlow, retired gold mining company hired geologist, is telling us on his site, Expansion Tectonics, that in academia, they're saying, oh, the age of the seabeds, there's different ages for different parts of the seabeds as it gets closer to the continental margins, right? And the youngest continental material is toward the center, let's say about the center of the ocean beds. And but the oldest material is nowhere near the age of the Earth. In other words, as the volcanic action is spreading the seafloor, and they have this term seafloor spreading in academia, so they already acknowledge that the seafloors are spreading, which is part of the expanding Earth theory, by the way. But they say, oh no, the Earth isn't expanding. As the seafloor spreads, these tectonic plates, let's say on this coastline, here's the coastline, and the seafloor has been pushing apart from the volcanic activity in the center of the ocean. As this seafloor is spreading and hitting the continental margin, it's subducting, let's say, and going under and being recycled. So that's this theory to keep us from understanding that we have an expanding Earth. They're saying, oh, it's just the Earth's staying the same size, because even though the seafloor is spreading and we don't have 4 billion year old seabeds at the continental margins, they're only a few 100 million years old, 300 million, 400 million at the most. That's just because they're being recycled continually. That's why they're so young. And it's like, well, and so James Maxwell goes, oh, I'm a geologist, and that's nonsense. Actually, we have an expanding Earth, and here's all the evidence. So go to his site, Expanding Tectonics, expansiontectonics.com, and you guys can find that. So we have the expanding, hollow, spherical, slightly flattened at the poles, but basically spherical, artificial planet. All those theories work together. The people who I propose that the advanced races who presumably built this planet, according to the evidence that I found. People can find that in my artificial riverbeds playlist on my channel, Jock Doubleday on YouTube. They can see all the evidence and the terrain. The artificial planet and then the expanding Earth, the artificial planet theory, the expanding Earth theory, and the hollow planet theory all work together beautifully, because the advanced races who created our planet engineered volcanoes in the seabeds. Most volcanoes are under the oceans. Most people don't realize that, but most volcanic activity is in the oceans. And that what's happening is, as James Maxwell said, I'm just going to do this one quick thing. It'll take 2 minutes.
Go for it.
Ionized particles from the sun. Now, what does ionized mean? It just means charged. Charged particles from the sun are coming to our planet and going everywhere, not just our planet, but the ones that hit our planet are embedding in the mantle, and the mantle is directly below the crust. So this is James Maxwell talking, okay? The mantle swells with the 24/7 ionized particles from the sun being stuck in the mantle, and it's just getting bigger all the time, every single day, for millions of years. And as it swells, the crust, which is attached to the mantle directly above it, the crust breaks. And guess what happens? The volcanic engines pour material up, and it expands the seabeds, what we call seabeds because there's water in it. So there might not have been water, but there is. So we call them seabeds. So the crust of the planet is expanding. So that means that the radius and the diameter of the planet are expanding. And James Maxwell proves this. And he's by many different ways of looking at it, by many different measures, he shows that we live on an expanding Earth, and academia just doesn't want to hear it because they're not interested in evidence in academia. So the Earth expands, and as it expands, the crust breaks, volcanic material comes up to fill the break that the swelling mantle created in the crust. So it's all about the ionized particles coming from the sun and sticking in the mantle. But then you have to believe that the people who created this planet, if one believes in that theory, we could just pause it. Well, what if someone did create the planet? Well, they would be smart enough to know that ionized particles are going to coming sticking in the mantle, breaking the crust, and they're going to set up a volcanic engine to fill in those gaps in the crust, so that and then you'll have this expanding Earth, more land mass for an expanding population. Awesome. Perhaps more space in the inner Earth. I'm not really sure how it would work if there's more space in the inner Earth as the Earth is expanding, but it's a really slow expansion. So it's not a dramatic thing, but people should just check out expansiontectonics.com, see what they think. If they want to learn about the Hollow Earth, just go to Journey to Truth podcast on Rumble, or they have a new try on YouTube because their entire channel got taken down in January, so they have to rebuild their entire channel on YouTube. So go there and you can find the Secret Space Program Insiders testimonials talking about the Hollow Earth, and all the advanced civilization is in there, and all the people who visited, and all the train systems, and all the beautiful civilizations, and the beautiful people, and the vegetarian diets, and the endless. And for artificial planet theory, my book Aritfact Terra is going to come out in a couple of years, and I'll probably just print like 10 of them, because I don't think anyone's going to buy this book from a playwright. Like, why would they? I wouldn't. So I'll probably just print 10 and give 9 to friends, and I'll have one on hand so I can say, hey, I made a book, But I don't expect anyone to buy it. So it's just I'll just enter it into the historical record. I'll give it to a library or something and be like, yeah, there's some crazy guy with a theory. And that's all I need to do. I don't need to sell a book, So I'm not here to sell a book. I'm just here to talk to you about this idea, and to tell you that there's evidence behind it. There's evidence behind a really old universe, not this young universe nonsense that academia gives us. There's evidence that there's been suppression of knowledge on all levels, in all fields of knowledge, by really nefarious people, and we know who they are. I'm not going to name them. And all of that's engine, and the engine is academia. And then the media also too, but academia is the engine of this suppression. And so we have to stay out of academia and be on the outside, just on the outside. That's fine. We can write our books and do our thing and do our best to promote it, even though we don't have a degree, or maybe we do have a degree. That's fine too. We have a degree from the matrix academia, and then we can go, oh, just like James Maxwell. He was an academic guy. And then he broke out of it. He broke out of the matrix, and he said, you know what? What they're telling us doesn't make any sense. So all we do is we use our discernment, and we use our intuition. Our intuition is going to guide us toward discernment. So we use our intuition, which doesn't seem to have a logical basis, but it really is logical. And that's going to push us toward discernment. So we should use both of those faculties. I'm sorry that I keep talking, but I just
you're supposed to on a podcast. You're supposed to talk.
Yeah, but I'm just like I keep feeling like you want to say something, and I just keep babbling, and it's like.
No, I love it, Jock. I love it. And I love that you just said that too about intuition and discernment, because for me, that is our biggest gift. One of our biggest gifts is to be able to tap into our intuition and to really follow and trust that. And I think when we, like you've been saying, like we've been, distracted or shown different things that may or may not be quite the story that is the story. And until we can trust in our own intuition, our own guidance, and the messages that we're receiving, we will get sort of pulled in every direction. So we need to be discerning. We need to trust ourselves. And I think that that's the biggest thing for anything that we're exploring, to be able to ask questions, be discerning when we get information brought to us and say, hey, does that feel right for me? Actually, that doesn't feel right for me, like all that sort of stuff. And I think that's so powerful. And that's how we learn and expand. That's how we grow. Otherwise, we're just, like stagnant in it, like a puddle of mud. And we don't want to be that. We came here with some sort of purpose, each of us, I feel. And for all of us to bring the puzzle pieces together, like me listening to you, I'm like, wow, man, you have listened and watched and read so much and done your own research and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's mind blowing to me. And to be able to sit here and hear what you've got to say and what you've learned and what you've brought together and the theory that has, really rung true with you, that's amazing, because I wouldn't have been able to do that. So thank you for being able to share that with us.
Well, just so you know, Rita, I would never have come up with this if I hadn't just been drawn by intuition to the Bosnian Pyramid Complex and literally spent 17 months before I came up with this idea. I mean, it was 23 months all told, but it was in month 17 that I came up with this idea. I wonder if the riverbed's a foundation for the pyramids. And, when you get into the riverbed, then the riverbanks are pretty, the structure of the riverbanks is really clear. Whereas the pyramid itself, there's tons of foliage on it, but the water takes out the foliage in the river. So you can see the structure and you go, oh my gosh, it's obvious. So my intuition led me to Bosnia, but my logic took 17 months to figure out, to even ask the question, what if the riverbed's the foundation for the pyramids? If I hadn't been there for 17 months, I would never be talking to you today. I'd be just, writing plays.
Yeah.
So it just happened that I was there for a ridiculously long time. I mean, what amateur archaeologist would spend 23 months in one place to do some archaeological work? It makes no sense. But I look back on it and go, what was I doing? I don't know. But my intuition kept me there. I was drawn to it. The mysteries were so great. And I was like, oh, I got to be here. I don't understand any of this. And how do we make sense of this? And I want to be a part of it. It was so exciting, so my intuition kept me there. And so after 17 months, I finally figured out maybe I should go into the riverbed. Now, like I said, if that hadn't happened, I'm embarrassed that it took that long to even ask that question. I'm embarrassed, but most people aren't going to be there for 17 months or 10 months or 5 months. They're going to be there for a week, 10 days. They'll take a selfie in front of a pyramid. They'll explore the tunnels, and then they're going to go home and go, I had a great adventure. They're not going to spend 17 months and go, I wonder what the foundation for this damn pyramid is,
Yeah. And that's why your intuition guided you to be there, because you're the person who, whether it took 17 months or not, asked the question, and not as someone else wouldn't have. And that's why you were guided. That's your piece of the puzzle of this great tapestry of life that we're all part of. That was part of your story and your part of the play to tell,
Well, and Semir always says to his tourist friends who come to visit the complex and to the employees of Archaeological Park Foundation, he always says, you're here for a reason. It's because you have some connection to this complex from the past. I'm just going to leave it there, but I think that he's correct. I think that the people who go there have had some connection with this complex, maybe in a past life. And so this idea that we are immortal souls, which was new to me. I mean, I was just a regular conventional thinker for most of my life. And then I went, after going to the Bosnian Pyramid Complex and talking to people who talked about advanced races, I was like, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And then years later, it just became clear. So many secret space program insiders are talking about the soul, the immortal soul. And it's like, they're not talking about little green men. They are. They're talking about UFOs and spaceships and organic ships that are intelligent, conscious ships and all these things. But they're also talking about the immortal soul. They keep coming back to that. How every soul is immortal, no matter what kind of being you are. No matter if you're a tree or a blade of grass or an insect or a reptilian or a Pleiadian or a Terran, your soul is immortal, and it's a geometrical, frequential pattern. It's a dance. It's a specific dance that's going to survive whatever suit we put on it. So this is the exciting thing to me. That's the most exciting thing that I learned, from being just a regular guy writing plays for the theater on boring, mundane earth. Now everything has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can relax.
What a gift. What a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jock, I have absolutely loved chatting with you and listening to all your wisdom and your stories and all the just information that you're bringing through. And I will make sure that you send through all the links for everything that you mentioned so I can link that there. But is there anything else on your heart that you want to share before we wrap up today?
Well, it's been really lovely talking to you. I wish that I didn't babble quite so much
No.
but you're holding space so strongly. I'm like, well, I feel safe to talk. She's listening. So I guess I can keep talking. So that's super important. And you and Aaron and Tyler, the really best podcast hosts, have this ability to listen to someone who's got a whole bunch to say, whatever it is. You're like, I'm going to hold space for this person. And so I want to honor you because that's rare, because in our world, everybody's talking, everybody's babbling, and nobody's listening. So the fact that you're able to hold space for people to talk, to speak their piece is really important. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that, Jock. I appreciate that. And I so appreciate you for coming on the show today. I'm so grateful to connect with you from Australia, as you would say. Bring it out, show those guns. Excellent.
I love the Australia. I love the Australian accent, and I wish I could do it. But it's music to my ears. So I was thrilled to. My intuition told me that it would be fun to talk with you, and so I immediately said yes, because I always go with my intuition.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have researched 20 of your interviews and said, let's see, should I? I just went with my intuition. So I knew it was going to be fine. So that's fine. But I'm really happy to have this discourse. Like I say, I'm not here to get anything. It doesn't help me if the world suddenly believes everything I'm saying. What would really help me is if people simply considered the idea and said, I wonder if there's any evidence of that. I might look for that on my hike tomorrow and see if there's any evidence one way or the other of an artificial hillside or an artificial creek bed. That would make me happy. If people were simply inspired to ask the question on their hike, is what I'm looking at natural or artificial? That would really make me happy. I don't want you to buy my book. There's only going to be 10 of them.
Yeah.
So you can't buy, nobody can buy my book anyway.
No one can buy it.
No one can buy it. It'll be the book that no one can buy. So yeah, I'm not here to sell you anything except to sell you the enthusiasm that I have for life, for the immortal soul taking on different characters throughout its life in the universe. Wow, what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful dance to have different immortal souls taking on different masks, different characters, and coming together and having unique interactions through time. Fantastic. This is amazing. And then the discoveries that each of us make in each of our lives, in the realms that we choose to live in this time, the discoveries, the things that we learn, amazing. I mean, wow.
Yeah. And the whole way through this interview and right then, I just feel your passion, your excitement for life and just for the endless possibilities. And I know for sure that there will be people who will walk away from this interview and on their hike will be looking at everything a whole lot differently. So I really appreciate you for that. And while I'm talking about those people, they are the ones that are tuning in right now. So I really want to thank you at home for tuning in to this epic chinwag with Jock Doubleday and myself. I hope you have loved it. I got so much out of it. I know that it's been so enjoyable for me and hopefully for you too, Jock. And as usual, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review if you're listening on the podcast. Always love hearing from you. And I know Jock will answer any questions that you leave in the comments as well too. So thank you for being here. Jock, before I go as well, could just remind us how people can find you and connect with your work so they can check it all out.
Yeah, articles, ancient history articles. You can go to two different sites with the same name. One's An American in Bosnia, and that's like the Google one. And there's An American in Bosnia WordPress. The newer articles are on WordPress. For videos, field research, you can go to my YouTube channel, Jock Doubleday, and you can just find different playlists there. There's a healing testimonials playlist on my Bosnian pyramids, youtube.com Bosnian pyramids channel. There's a beautiful healing testimonials playlist from people who came out of Rovne Tunnel and were miraculously healed of different things. And
wow.
If you want to look at Bosnian pyramid stuff, just go to Bosnian pyramids on YouTube. If you want to look at terraforming, artificial planet, things like that, Jock goes out on a hike and discovers that the earth is built. Sitting in a creek bed, you can go to the playlist. It's called Artificial Riverbeds on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. That's great. Well, we'll link all of that in the description and show notes for everyone to click through to. So with that said, I just want to thank you again, Jock, for being on the show and taking the time to hang out with us today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Jock.
Thank you.